Ezra, I want to go back in time because we're recollecting on the January 6th and how far we have come. I think there's a similar type of moment that deserves recollection where you guys had your dark winter of the soul, which was the Canadian trucker incident, which, if I'm not mistaken, was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. I can't quite remember.
February
Ezra, that is when we saw.
2022.
Okay, yes. Okay, 3 years ago. So, no. Thank you. Similar type of time span where that, in my personal opinion, looking as an American into your country, seemed as if where you guys really turned a corner into Soviet-style totalitarianism. Walk us through this, Ezra, how those events unfolded and how you guys never gave up.
It was the most important civil liberties moment in a generation in Canada. All of our federal political parties were think-alikes when it came to the lockdowns and forced vaccine mandates. There was a no-fly list in Canada. If you weren't jabbed, you could not fly. You could not get on a ship. In the second largest country in the world, you couldn't fly. It was very authoritarian, and we had a weak conservative, a name-only conservative leader back then who was cool with all this. So who was there to fight for our freedom? No professors, no media, no political party. Independent truckers on their own started a convoy to Ottawa because they had been hit with a vaccine mandate, which is crazy. Truckers are the most solitary workers other than maybe a lighthouse captain. And to say that the truckers now had to get a jab to continue to work. So all these truckers started this long convoy to Ottawa, and it just grew and grew and grew. And soon it was 100 kilometers long, and people came out just to view it with their own eyes. It was the first real thing they saw in a year because of all the propaganda on TV. And because it was sort of leaderless and it was self-funded and organic, people saw this is the first real thing, and it started to embarrass Trudeau because they went to Ottawa. Now, Trudeau thought, this is my January 6th moment. I'm going to play the Democrat message track from January 6th. These are violent insurrectionists, domestic extremists. He tried all that, but it didn't work because the truckers were completely peaceful. They didn't storm any building. They had bouncy castles and hot tubs. And their niceness, their Canadianness shamed Trudeau, and he was starting to lose face. So then he pulled the emergency ripcord. Justin Trudeau brought in martial law. He declared a national emergency. We didn't even have that on 9/11, Charlie. This is the first time the law has ever been used. And it put Canada under a form of martial law. And he and his deputy, without any legal process, started seizing and freezing private bank accounts of anyone who they could find at this protest. Hundreds and hundreds of families, suddenly when they went to the grocery store, their credit cards, their banks were frozen. It was an outrageous violation of civil liberties. And who knows how far he would have gone. That was our moment. And I think Canadians looked into the abyss and said, whoa, what has happened to us, the True North, strong and free? And Charlie, if you look at the polls, that was when Trudeau started to fall. And the 2.5, 3 years since then. And so that was the most terrible and wonderful moment in my lifetime in Canada when ordinary grassroots people stood up to Trudeau and stood up to the regime media. Charlie, all the media in Canada agreed with Trudeau on martial law. They agreed with demonizing these ordinary truckers. They wanted Trudeau to go further. They were happy to write the script the same way the Democrats did on Jan 6. So it was a moment where ordinary people, I would use the word the proletariat, because these were grassroots, ordinary, unfancy people. They stared down Trudeau. Trudeau blinked. And we are freer now because of it. By the way, last point, I mentioned that back then Canada had a conservative in name only leader of the Conservative Party, and he told his MPs, you're not allowed to even meet with the truckers. Well, his MPs had a revolt, sacked him as leader, went to hang out with the truckers, and that's when the Conservative Party of Canada chose the real conservative, Pierre Poilievre. So the truckers not only saved Canada from Trudeau, The truckers helped renovate and rejuvenate the Conservative Party. Pierre Poilievre, who is set to have the biggest election win in Canadian history if polls hold up, he is the party leader because of the truckers, Charlie.
Mm-hmm. So Ezra, 1 minute remaining here, and I do want to keep you for another segment. Do you believe that this can be the beginning of a more robust, conservative, common sense realignment?
Oh, yes. And I look forward to Pierre Poilievre and Donald Trump working together constructively. Let's be honest. Trump and Trudeau hate each other. It is a mutual thing. And that would be bad for both countries, especially bad for Canada, because we're the smaller partner in the partnership. But you put a thoughtful, Canada first, freedom-loving conservative in office in Canada and have him and Donald Trump have a heart-to-heart, you're going to get things done for both countries on trade, on border control, on national defense, on foreign policy. Trudeau is being pro-Hamas. Pierre Poilievre is not. You're going to see our two countries become best friends again, Charlie. I'm very excited about it.